Yeah, YouTube is live. Sometimes Facebook takes long and sometimes YouTube takes long. But anyway, welcome to the third and penultimate part. It's a big word for me, but of, as I say, my plans for empowering Asians on Fridays. Asian Fridays, or Asia's Fridays. Asia's Friday. Asia's Fridays, Fridays in Asia, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, this is then penultimate part, and way behind schedule as per usual. Might try and do a late nighter because it's a Friday, but I want to get up quite early tomorrow so I can make a video on. I was going to do Asian Saturdays, very revisited, to go through it again, but I thought I would talk about Celtic as playing instead. So change from that plan because I've already done Asian Saturdays, but I thought I might do it again, like say revisited. But instead, I think I'll talk about Celtic. Hopefully, all being well, Celtic can do the business tomorrow. But I'm hoping to talk about football before I go to sleep, but I'm way behind schedule. So as it's a Friday, I might do a late one as usual. Well, it's kind of late, but anyway. Sorry, I know I do waffle, but these are pointers number 21 to 30 as per usual on that note. And please don't know what you think as ever. So here goes. So number 21. As I say, for me personally, I like to focus on different themes for different days, and because it's a Friday, I'm thinking of things that begin with F. So I talk about like the film industry. I love to support I think I mentioned it. Yeah, I think I mentioned it, point number 1 in part 1. I love to support Asians in films, Asians in the film industry, Asians in farming, food making, people who try Asian foods, facts about Asia, promote facts about Asia, promoting Asian industries, support Asians financially in Asia itself and from the diaspora, or how we pronounce it, maybe people from the diaspora and those interested in finding out about different cultures or whatever, and so for all those who just like to travel or whatever, or those who like to cover things, I suppose, those sort of thing. To travel to parts of Asia, and maybe even say what are their least and most favourite parts of Asia, travelling to as many parts of Asia as possible. On that note, I'd love to know from anyone out there, have you been to any parts of Asia, and if so, which parts have you been to, and what are your least and most favourite parts of Asia, and your most and least favourite things about Asia? I'd love to know. Again, mainly what people's favourite parts of Asia are, and favourite things about Asia, favourite foods from Asia, favourite companies they like to support, I guess, or whatever, favourite football or sports teams from Asia. Again, think of words with F. And moving on to point number 22, I did want to talk more about my plans for a partnership between Italian football and Asia, and also Italian football, Celtic, and Asia as well. Maybe even featuring other teams like I mentioned, LCFC, Leicester City, or Birmingham, maybe one or two others. I mentioned Leicester and Birmingham because they have quite a diverse population. I grew up in Leicestershire. But I suppose Leicester have done tours of Thailand, but maybe they could do more tours of Asia, which could help them to promote themselves in Asia. But I hope they'll also benefit Asian tourism industries. But yeah, so also I talked about, like I say, 21, thinking about the past, and in Black History Month I mentioned like 22 could be, I said, about Black futures. In this case, it could be Asian futures, which could be looking at ways to empower Asia for the future. Some people say Asia is the future. Some people say that about Africa. They say about AI, possibly it helps tech. Tech's been around for a while, but especially AI, robotics, that kind of thing. And yeah, I'd love to see how Asia can build that future. I wonder, like in China and India and parts of Asia generally, especially China and India, I think, but maybe other parts of Asia just as much, like you have to be good academically, and they look down on those who are not good academically, like people with dyslexia and related conditions. I wonder if dyslexic strengths could actually help Asian nations even more, to develop even more, by helping Dubai to rebuild. I think my alliterations again, like dyslexics to help Dubai in October for Dyslexia Awareness Month, and especially in December, dyslexics to help Dubai's economy to recover in December, hopefully help their economy to grow back. but yeah, I'd say Asian futures, looking at what could empower Asia into the future, and what they could do to change and improve. Um, but yeah, moving on to number 23, I wonder about any Asian funds, how to fundraise for Asia, and what if a joint was a collective sovereign wealth fund. What if there was to be a joint collective sovereign wealth fund for Arab nations, and even one for Asian nations generally, including Arab nations and others? But yeah, there could be a specific one for Arab nations, which I suppose would cover both Africa and Asia. There could be a specific, there could be a general one for Asian nations. So I wonder if they pooled all their money together, like China, India, Taiwan, Thailand, Korea, and all the rest of Asia, Japan, and elsewhere. Um, what could they achieve by investing together? Um, but yeah, I'd love to fundraise for Asia, I'd say, and see what Asians could fund and invest into. What if there was a united fund for Asia? I suppose a sovereign wealth fund, I guess. Again, I'm trying to think of words that begin with F, like, so how can I build a specific fund? I guess a sovereign wealth fund would start with S, technically, but for sure it could be called the fund, the Asian fund, or whatever, I guess. But things like that could look at ways to invest and grow their economies and benefit them financially. Can you think of any? I'd love to know. And how can people like me fundraise to benefit Asians and support them in the film industry, farming, um, beverage and food production, and all sorts of things like that. And seeing what they can achieve. I'd love for an Asian soft wealth fund to invest into Stanford and Celtic, but also in each other, and maybe Leicester and Birmingham as well, football clubs at least. LCFC and Birmingham as well, maybe, but especially Stanford and Celtic, and also in each other, like in Asian businesses, Asian founders, Asian firms, and things like that, especially in Asia itself, and maybe even around the world. I suppose I normally say in point number 21, connecting with the diaspora, or however you pronounce it, through tourism and events, summits, conferences, events, and things like that, which could look at ways the diaspora could help Asian economies. For instance, India with NRIs, non-resident Indians, people of Indian descent around the world. What could their role be in helping India to grow its economy? Even lobbying for some of their taxes to be able to go to India and things like maybe, and again similar for the rest of Asia. I mean, the problem, I suppose, maybe I am being naive as usual when it comes to a joint collective sovereign wealth fund, because sometimes it can mean that there's differences. Like you could say too many cooks spoil the broth. I suppose on the other hand, you could say many minds make light work, or many hands make light work, that kind of thing. By working together, they can achieve more, perhaps. Again, I think like dyslexic, out of the box thinking could probably help, or even other neurodivergent conditions. I wonder if there could be. I wonder if there are many positives to mental, to having mental health problems, but they can come with strengths just like neurodivergent conditions. So, yeah, the methods of madness. Also, I think of like, come to think of it, foundations for supporting, tackling poverty, alleviating suffering, and making the world better for people, and especially for people in Asia, supporting animals, animal rights, children's rights, rights for women and girls, more access, again, funding, education, and things like that. And there's probably one or two other things I could cover, but I'm going to move on to point number 24. As the saying goes, there's only 24 hours in a day. So yeah, I wonder what could be the pros and cons and pros, and all that, not positive, but for a joint slash collective sovereign wealth fund for all of the Asian nations to pool their money together. Could they trust each other? Could they have a trusted, sorry, they call it a trust fund, but could they have a fund which can be trusted, trustworthy fund that can be ran for the benefit of all possible Asian nations to invest together? I think of like the PIF taking their oil money and investing in things. I guess the more money you have, I guess you'd have more people to share it out with, but depending on how you run it. But it could invest in more things, and also share information and things like that on marketing. Hopefully, doing it all legally and above board. But yeah, I wonder what Asian nations could do if they all worked together to support each other financially, as they love to support Asian founders, Asian firms, and that kind of thing. Asians around the world, especially in Asia itself, from all over Asia, to improve the quality of life for all possible Asians. Number 25, I guess, as I say, I would support republics more, which I normally say, but yeah, I'd love to see what they could achieve together. I'd still wish for all of Asia, as I say, to work together to put their differences aside. I wish to promote republicanism, libertarianism, and things like that, but I still wish for people to come together. And I guess the saying is, agree to disagree, as my stepdad used to say. I agree to disagree sometimes, and just work together for each other's good, and again, put differences aside and that kind of thing. Number 26, they could also work together for reparations and look at the potential benefits of such, and the ways to do so. For instance, I think, like I mentioned in point number 23, I think about what if people of Asian descent could give our taxes, including part Asians like myself, but fully Asians as well, of course, mainly, to give our taxes towards Asia legally if they wanted to. So a person, I don't know, I'm using a common Indian surname, but let's say Mr. Patel or Mr. Chang from who lives in Britain or America or whatever, if they could legally give whatever they wanted to out their own income taxes, at least, or taxes generally, especially income taxes towards India or China, especially, or Japan, or wherever their roots are from, if they wanted to do that. And some might say, for instance, someone in Britain might say, well, I benefit from the NHS, the National Health Service. Those who might not know what that is overseas. Yeah, they might say, I benefit from the NHS, or I benefit from schools, so they might want to put half their money into their host nation if they feel they benefit from it, to say thanks, maybe, or even just because they think they will benefit anyway by getting that money back, and they might want to give half to their ancestral homeland, or they might want to give all of it to their ancestral homeland, or they might want to only give it to their host land. But at least they would have that choice, they would have that option. And I guess it means the more racist people are towards Asians, the more Asians will say, yeah, I'll send my tax money back home if people are treated that way. There was something I was going to say, but I'll probably leave it till another day. Yeah, because I normally like to stick to a certain theme for certain days, so I might cover that. Or maybe I'll say it now. Yeah, I'll probably say it. So I think, like, whatever people do against Asians, I wish God would do to them. Which reminds me of something I was going to say. My fears for Asia. So I was thinking, I could have said in point number 13. That's one thing I forgot to say. I was going to say in point number 21, but I forgot again. So third time lucky, I guess. But my fears about, like, God not being on my side, God not being on the Asian side, or whatever. So yeah, I think on the negative side of my fears. But I wish God, if God would hear my prayers, I would wish God would, again, focus on Asia. I wish that God would, whatever people do against Asians, I wish would happen to them. Like when, I normally like to support Africa, but when Uganda kicked out the Asians, their economy went really downhill as far as I'm aware. Could have been a coincidence, but I'm pretty sure that's why. But I wish, like, any country that kicked out Asians would, their economy, like they kicked out Chinese or Indian people or whatever, or Asians generally, from any part of Asia, then their economy hopefully would go out. I know would go down. Sorry, I know you could say that about different. Unless Asia united, you could say that about one Asian nations themselves, like how they treat each other. But yeah, in fact, I suppose because I'm focusing on Asia, I'm thinking about, I'm doing that thing where I give too much info away, say everything in my mind. But I wish people would receive what they give. I love a perfect comma, if you like. I don't like the word perfect normally, but I love a idealistic comma, like whatever you do to others would be done to you, but especially whatever people do to Asians. But anyway, moving on to point number 27. as a reward for supporting them. I know I mentioned this a few times, but it's Friday again. It's like football Fridays. I would love to see, as I say, especially for my ideas to help, or at least for trying to help them. I would love for Asians to benefit in Temple and Celtic, and to a lesser extent, also FC and Birmingham, because they are diverse. They have a big Asian diaspora in those cities as well. But normally, I'm not that patriotic. But yeah, and having award ceremonies and that kind of thing as well. Talking about those who benefit Asia the most financially, they can have financial awards, business award shows, and things like that. So Asian nations like China, Hong Kong, India, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, and basically all Asian nations, all possible Asian nations, especially Central Asia and Malaysia. Because I mentioned it before, I would love for them to host like business award shows and things like that, and ways to bring business people together. Um, I'd also love to see how the Asian Development Bank can support more Asian founders. Point number 28, I hope, as I say, that Asians can put their, as I said before, I hope they can put their differences aside. And I think there's a lot of advantages in working together and wanting what's best for each other, having each other's backs, working together as a team, being as united as possible, especially if, like, Europe is more divided. Asia could capitalise to help their economies to grow, maybe. I guess I could be being naive. Number 29, I'd love to see how part Asians can support Asia financially. And number 30, I probably shouldn't, there's another one that I shouldn't say. Here I go again, but I'd love for Asians to be able to. I think I've always said with F, like if I think I'd like to say point number 3. If I was free, like say, I normally leave it till the end of the video and 30 minutes a day, but another of those I probably shouldn't say. But like I wish that Asians could they'd get to vote like hot, white, and black chicks and that kind of thing. But anyway, probably shouldn't say too much on that. But yeah, I wish God would give us the freedom to communicate. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there.